Hi everyone, it's that time again for Digital DevCon, where board game developers all over Australia join us to share their latest creations in under 5 minutes. Digital DevCon is sponsored by Tabletop Game Designers Australia. You can find us on social media as TGDA, but in the meantime, what we're here to do is introduce you to some very talented people, and we're going to be starting the night off with Andrew Carpenter. Let's bring in Andrew. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, how are you, Jill?
Good. Now, know that you're here to talk to us a little bit about crashing cars.
That's right. Let me share my screen and we'll get right into it. This is Crash Karts. It's a dice racing game for 2 to 4 players. And it's all about getting to the finish line first, but on the way, you've got to avoid all of the obstacles on the road. And you can smash into each other as well. So that's always going to be fun. So the game is divided into 2 phases. The first phase is the dice rolling phase, and then we resolve the movement. So everybody's got 3 dice they can roll, and there are 3 faces on each die. There's the move forward straight, move diagonally, or gain an energy. You can roll your dice as often as you want until you get the result you want on the dice, and then as soon as you've got a result you want, you put it in the track. So it's first come, first serve. Everybody's rolling at the same time. It's real time. Once you've got everything you want, you lock it into the track. I've been talking to the camera, so everybody else has gone before me, so I'll go last. I'll put in my 3 dice in turn. Once everybody's dice are in the track, then movement is resolved. So we just go through them one at a time, and we do what it says on the dice. So yellow is going to move diagonally, blue will move forward 1. It's landed on an energy space, so blue gains an energy. And we'll continue on through the dice, doing what the dice say. If it gives you a direction you can choose, then that player gets to choose the direction. Continue moving. Now, yellow's going to move into the same space as black, so that's going to be a crash. That's going to push black diagonally one way or the other. Black gets to choose. Black will go this way. And when you get crashed into, the consequence is you're going to lose one of your dice out of the track. Now, where I am now, black is going to want to lose that one. You get your choice of which dice to lose. And then we continue on. Red will also gain an energy. And then red is going to crash into blue diagonally. Now, this is diagonal crash. You don't get a choice which way you go. That's going to push blue over here. So blue also has to lose a dice for the crash, but they've also crashed into an obstacle. When you crash into an obstacle, you have to lose 2 dice. So he's already lost all of his dice out of the track. So 2 of his dice are now going to be locked next turn. He won't get to roll them unless he buys them back again. If you do crash into an obstacle, you gain another energy. Finally, black is going to move forwards and also gain an energy from the dice. Once all the dice are resolved, everybody picks up their colored dice and we go again. Blue will only get to roll 1 dice next turn unless they choose to buy back their dice. So that's 1 energy to buy back a dice to make it available to re-roll. Other things you can do with your energy is spend it on power-ups. So I've got these 8 power-up cards here. When you resolve a dice, if the symbol on the dice matches the symbol on the card, then you're allowed to spend 1 or 2 energy and activate that power. Once it's been activated, we'll flip that face down so that only one person gets to use it each round. Once all the dice are resolved, then it gets flipped back over again. You can also do a turbo boost on any forward move, spend 3 energy, and you can move 3 forward spaces. Finally, if you move into a pothole, there's no penalty for moving into one, but you do need to spend an energy to get back out of it again. So that's in combination with a move. That's all the movement options you have. Once somebody has moved onto the 3rd tile in play, the 1st tile is removed, it slides down, and whoever's in last place gets to choose the next tile, and they can place that round whichever way they want, and the race continues. When the stack of cards has run out, then you take the start card, flip it over, that becomes the finish line. And the first one to land on the finishing line space will be the winner. That is a round of Crash Karts. It's,
Thanks for walking us through that really quickly, Andrew. What do you love best about Crash Karts?
I like the real-time dice rolling part. Really seems to tickle people. So yeah, everybody's frantically trying to get the result they want, while also trying to gauge where they want to be in the track. So you might choose to hold off a little bit, let a couple of other people go first, because they're going to be in the place you want to be. And then you can jump in with your forward move, crash them from behind, and then zip off ahead. But if you can't get the roll you want, everybody else might fill up the track first. If you're the last one rolling, you get one last roll, and then you have to take whatever you got last. So if you ended up with a roll that was going to send you off the side of the board, which also counts as a crash, then you stuck with that, and you have to put up with the penalties of it as well. So it's all about positioning and getting an advantage over your other players with the positioning. And the power-ups help you do that as well.
And which one's your favorite power-up?
Favorite power-up out of the lot? I would say it's got to be the leapfrog. This is definitely the one that gets the most action most of the time, and there'll be a lot of arguments over who gets to play this one first, because this one lets you jump over an obstacle. So if you find yourself in this position, rather than trying to go around, you can just leap straight over it.
Well, thanks so much for that, Andrew. Where can we find you?
I'm online at 5robots.com. That's where I've listed the majority of my games, not all of them. I'm working on getting that up to date as quickly as possible. I'm also on Twitter at Kagato Actual. That's a little hard to remember, but I am online as at 5robots_games as well.
All right, thanks, Andrew. We'll let you go now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hello, welcome.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thank you. We got a lag. Hello, can you hear me?
We're here.
Okay. I'm here to talk about Identity Crisis, which is my party game. It is similar to some party games, but with a lot of different twists that you've never seen before. This big box has 400 different cards in it, and each card has an adjective representing something that could describe a fictional character. So just some random cards I've got here. Is a genius, drinks like a fish, has an iconic vehicle, could be Rick from Rick and Morty, it could be Batman, it could be James Bond. And the answers get to be shouted out, and the person who's turning over the cards picks the answer they like the best. And depends, you'll have a long discussion about whether, you know, Batman drinks more than James Bond and which is the best answer. And that's really the key, is that unlike some games, the comedy doesn't come from the cards themselves, but from the hilarious discussions that people have back and forth about what is the best possible answer. But only one person gets to decide. They get the cards, and then you draw another round. Like it could be someone who is good with animals, seeks redemption, and seldom bathes. Whoops, which could be Wolverine. It could be Gandalf. But we don't know how often Gandalf actually has a bath. Who knows? Maybe only once in every age. That's why he suddenly became Gandalf the White. It's a really simple game. It takes about 5 minutes. You now know all the rules, and it takes, you know, anywhere from 5 minutes to all night to play for 3 or more players. And we've also been working really hard on doing all sorts of theme decks. So we have a fantasy set, we have superheroes, we have an anime set, and we have just a pure set about who's the biggest fan of all the things that you like. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you know different things, because all that matters is the person whose turn it is, you know, what they think is the best answer. So it really brings out the best parts of social games, we think. It's very social. It's very much about the people you're playing with, and it creates these hilarious interactions depending on the random cards that you draw.
So what was the best game of it that you've played so far?
We did have a really long game once with about 12 people, which was really good fun. And there was a question about someone from ancient times who had magic powers, and the answer turned out to be Jesus, which was a little bit heretical, but you know, that left us in stitches. Some people seem to be oddly good at this game, which is always interesting. And then you have that issue of like, why do you just have the right answer? But then it can swing the other way, which is always fun. And that's one of the great things about with large groups, is somebody will just blurt out an answer and it'll be perfect. Also, yes, we did have a great game where we had a long conversation about whether Batman was a good person or not, and whether that fit the definition that we were looking for.
So is Batman a good person?
Maybe. I think it depends on who's writing him. I think Superman was considered a better answer for someone who was saintly and good-natured, but I think the voter ended up going with Batman in that case. So Batman tends to you know, he's a popular choice, but you can't repeat any answers as well. So once you've got your Batman out of your system, you can't use him again.
I don't know that's how Batman works in real life, though.
Oh no, he does keep coming back over and over again. There's always a new Batman coming along. Maybe you could vote for different kinds of Batmans. The 60s Batman probably is a good person. He was a deputy of the police force and, was very caring. But the modern one, he drives trucks through people's houses. So
modern day Batman is just property damage.
Yeah.
The wazoo. Likes
to throw crates at people's faces.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's because he's rich, because he can just pay all the insurance. So, and that's it. We had a card about tax fraud in there. Who cheats on his taxes? Batman comes up a lot for that as well. So, being a superhero, it's great for tax avoidance.
Yeah. So what else can you tell us about Identity Crisis tonight? Where can we find you?
That's the great thing about this game is how simple it is and how easy it is to learn, and how we've tested it all over Australia and people just love it to bits. And if you like simple party games, we're really looking to get a publisher to get a wider audience. You can find me at Tinstar Games all over the internet. It's tinstargames.com, Tinstar Games on Facebook, Tinstar Games on Instagram, Tinstar Games with a 1 at the end on Twitter. And tinstargames.itch.io for all our digital games as well. We have role-playing games up there and all sorts of cool games. So yeah, check it out, and keep playing our games, because we just love to hear people playing our games. If people want review copies or anything like that as well, we are sending them out into the world right now. Love to do that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing Partners when it comes out. Fantastic. Yes, we had a great Kickstarter with that, and we have just sent it off to the printers, so we're really, really happy about that as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight, Steve. So I can let you go, and we can bring the next person in. Who's coming next? Is it Sean? Next up is Sean. Oh, fantastic. Yes. His games are amazing. See ya. See ya, Steve. Oh, I've just gotten a note here to say that Sean might not be joining us tonight. We can't find him. So maybe we move on to the next person. Instead, we're bringing on Karl.
Hey, how you going, Jill?
Hi, Karl. Thanks for saving me.
Okay, happy to.
Oh, no, now
I've as well.
Hello.
Well, I'm gonna keep Karl for now, and Sean, I'll put you back in when Karl was supposed to go.
Sure, thank you.
Easy. I'll just share my tabletop sim here. Beautiful. Is that up?
Yeah, it's up.
Fantastic. Cool. So today I am showing Countryside. So Countryside is a card drafting set collection game. Plays 2 to 5 players in about 20 minutes. So now Countryside utilizes domino style cards with an innovative placement mechanic where players are tucking the unused half of the card around their player board. Players need to make tough decisions about which card to keep and what cards they'll be passing on to their opponents, as there's a lot of not only choosing the cards that you want, but also stopping other players from getting what they need. Countryside is played over 3 to 5 rounds, depending on the number of players, with the whole deck being used each game, allowing players to quickly get into the action. So at the start of each round, players are dealt a hand of cards, where they must choose one of those halves to add to their scenescape. Players then place that face down, all players simultaneously pick which card they wish to play. Now, at this point, you've got some very interesting decisions, as not only are you picking half a card for yourself, you're also removing the other half of the pool of available options that other players have. So paying attention to what others are collecting is always a good idea. Now, once all players have chosen, we simultaneously reveal the card that you've picked and tuck it into its associated position around your player board. We then pass our remaining cards to the player on the left and then pick from that fresh hand of cards. So we'll just zoom in on the board here a little bit. So there are 5 types of items 5 items on the cards that you can collect. and try and earn points in. So out the left-hand side, we have unique stops. So you're going for sets of different sign names. Across the bottom is where we're collecting our fields. So fields start off as negative points until you get up to a minimum number, with any extras being worth 0. So you want to try and get exactly the correct amount across there. Out to the right, we have animals, which are worth a lot of points if you can get them for pairs and triples. But obviously players can very easily see what you've got there to potentially be able to deny you from taking those. Growing above your house, we have flowers. So we're counting the individual numbers of flowers here, and you're getting points if you have more flowers than the person on your left, and points if you have more flowers than the person on your right. Lastly, we have our beautiful peach tree growing out of the center of our board. So in here, you are multiplying your peaches times the number of bees in your tree. So once again, some big points that can be earned there if you can grow that quite large. Cool. Yeah, so every game, all the cards are used every game, so it's very quick to get into. And all scoring is at the end, so there's no downtime throughout the game as we go. Just get in, shuffle the deck, play, and it's definitely the sort of game that players tend to jump straight into another game straight after and try a new strategy. With the 5 different scoring methods there's a lot of variability and options that you can choose to go through. Looking for a publisher. Cool.
Great. What's your favorite thing about the game, Karl?
Oh, definitely the peach tree, which was what my initial thing that I came up with was my initial sort of inspiration for the game, growing that big peach tree out of the middle of the board there. But it can be challenging sometimes to grow it as big as you want, because as you're growing it, usually another player is as well. People are trying to deny you those peaches. So you do have to be flexible to be able to work around what other people are doing to try and maximize the points that you can earn throughout the game.
I know that this would be very hard for me to play, because I would be looking at both sides of the card going, but which side? I want both sides.
Yep. It's definitely one of the advantages, I think. Even though you've only got 4 cards in hand, you've actually got 8 options. So even when your hand gets down to just that last card that you've got to pick, you've always got a choice there about which half you can take. So you've always got options. It's never a dead card.
But you're always passing all your cards on to the next player.
Yes, so you'll have a hand of cards, picking one and then passing the remaining, and then continuing on until you finish that hand of cards. Then you get dealt another hand and go again, generally passing in the opposite direction each time. Okay. So you've got different players interacting with players on both sides of you.
Thanks for that, Karl. Now, where can we find you and where can we find the game?
Yes, you can find me at Archangel_Games on Twitter and Instagram, and Archangel Games on Facebook, or at karl@archangelgames.com.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Karl.
Thanks, Jill.
All right. We'll be bringing on our next person, which could be Sean, could be Mike. I'm confused now. Well, someone's going to come and join me soon. Otherwise, I'm just talking to myself. Hopefully. There we go. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Jill. How are you?
Good.
That's good.
I really enjoy it when you guys get in here and you save me from oblivion.
Yes, a bit of duck happening in the background with a bit of frantic clicking going on. So we're getting there.
Yeah.
Shall I share a screen?
Yes, share away.
Okay. See that okay?
Perfect. Paranoid superhero.
Yes, so this is the Paranoid Superhero Nervous Nemesis. It's a game for 2 to 5 players, or supervillains, budding supervillains, hopefully, that are planning crimes around the city. The object of the game is to be the most famous supervillain by the end of the game, which is dictated by this card deck here. And you can adjust this card deck so you can make it shorter or longer game. What I really wanted to get into this with this game is a feeling of real planning going on. Okay, so each player during their turn, I should actually start by saying, why is the paranoid superhero, who's this little guy here, why is he paranoid? He's paranoid because one of these elements is his weakness, and that's chosen at the start of the game. Nobody knows what it is, but during the course of the game, players can try to work out what that element might be, and that's important towards the end of the game. This is set up for 2 players at the moment. Each player at the same time will roll their power dice, and then they use this power dice, and this is where the planning comes in. They use this power dice to, depending on what they want to achieve in a turn, plan a number of actions that's on their player card. So in this case, the Daggeress has, during her turn, planned a crime in the church. So there's a crime being planned underway, and it takes a certain amount of time to trigger. She's hired some thugs from the Thug Tavern, and she's added an exposure element to protect the crime also, along with her henchmen. And if that crime actually triggers, she'll earn a whole bunch of fame. And there are other ways to earn fame through the game as well. Once each player's had their turn and done things like planning crimes in a location, or these cards also, sorry, can't really see that too well, but these cards also double up as a scheme. So you play schemes on other players, or you might play schemes to manipulate the superhero. But after each player's had their turn, then the superhero gets to play, and he's played by the board game itself. So these dice get rolled, and he will move around the table accordingly. And in this case, he might actually land during his turn at the church with a power level of 3. And that means he actually removes 3 thugs. And if he's actually strong enough to remove all the thugs and the henchmen, then that crime's going to get thwarted, and the player will have to think up another plan. But in doing so, he'll be exposed to the elements that were actually there at the time. And so that adds more crystals into the chemical vat that's here in the center of the board. So this is important for the end game. So something like that will happen. Play keeps going. These cards get used up as players plan their crimes and do schemes and so forth. And then at the end of the game, once this deck is empty, players then have a guess at what they think this element might be. So throughout the game, they might have done some research by looking at the elements that it's not, if that makes sense. And they might think that, okay, maybe the element is argon, right? So they might put one of their henchmen in argon, and then the other players put their henchmen around. And then we reveal at the end of the game what the actual element was. And in this case, it happened to be manganese. And any player that actually happened to guess that correctly will gain even more fame based on how much the superhero was exposed throughout the game. All make sense?
That sounds great.
So that's the way it works. And what I've found in playtesting, and this now is a very well playtested board game, is that players really get that element of planning and scheming, and really it's a bit of a brutal game, because it's a game where you're sort of all against each other, and also watching the board as well to make sure that you're not going to have your crimes thwarted, and there are ways to protect your crime and so forth.
I have to say that the thing that really pops out to me is that box art.
Yeah. Yes. Look, it's all this art and everything is obviously just for prototyping. I've really put some thought though into things like numbers of cards and so forth to make it so publisher friendly, so that you can hit those card numbers that make it financially viable as well, and try to keep the components to a minimum. But at the same time, if you use this type of artwork in this kind of game, I think it really springs out of the table. It looks quite 3D, the whole board.
It does. It looks amazing.
Yeah, no, I've been lucky in my artist choice for prototyping. He really nails what I'm going for. I've got some ideas for expansions as well. So adding extra locations, adding asymmetrical powers for the criminals. You can also research a super secret, which is like another action that's a one-shot, very powerful action, but it takes a little bit of planning, again, to actually get that off. It will only go off at certain times. So that adds that asymmetrical layer anyway into the game as it is.
Thanks, Mike. Where can we find you?
I'm just Mike Bantick at gmail.com, but all the details are on my sell sheet.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Jill.
And we are now looking at at Haunted House. Can you see this okay, Jillian?
It says it as, yes, I can see it perfectly.
Okay, great. So this is a family-friendly asymmetric game. This is a press your luck game for 2 to 6 players, 8 and up, and 20 to 30 minutes. You are a bunch of teenagers out for a scare, and that old abandoned house on the edge of town has plenty of stories about it. One player will lead the others through the haunted house, taking pictures of the creatures they found and earning reputation for their bravery. In this game, getting scared is a good thing, but don't get too scared or you'll bust. Yeah, so in Haunted House, basically my goal of the game is to make a family-friendly press your luck game that's a lot like Ink and Gold / Diamant. And then add some asymmetry to it, add a different kind of fun theme. With Haunted House, you've got a lot of different ways in which you can go. Each turn, the leader is taking people a different direction, and they're choosing this based on what they can see of the haunted house. There's kind of a fog of war happening here. Backs of the cards have one creature or like a big wooden crate as the surprise cards. So you know a little bit about what's on the other side, but you don't know exactly what's on the other side. And the leader chooses to go to a room. Everyone gets scared based on the creatures or the surprise that's on the other side. You might find a sword, which gives you some points. You might find a scary mirror, which causes everyone to get scared. But before the leader goes on to the next place, the followers have to choose what they want to do first. Followers can choose to peek at adjacent tiles using a flashlight tile that they have. They can choose to bail, which means they'll score some points, or they can choose to follow the leader wherever they will go. If a follower is with the leader, when the leader chooses to stop, they'll score some points for their fear, and they'll draft some of the face-up tiles that they flipped up. And what that does is it's basically 2 ways of scoring points. One now, and then one later. The cards score you points at the end of the game. So everyone takes a set amount of turns as the leader, and then the game ends. We do some end game scoring, and that's the game. Every time the leader is choosing the direction, and because it's only the people that are left with the leader when the leader chooses to stop. So if the leader can kind of shrug off everyone else, then they get all those cards to themselves. So if you're a follower, you want to try to stick with the leader until you get too scared or whatever. As you're playing as a follower, you're kind of taking a look at how scared everyone else is, because everyone's got these asymmetric player boards. You're all scared by these different monsters in different amounts. So as you get closer to 6 or 7 fear, where 10 will cause you to bust, you might be looking over and say, oh, he's right at 8 or 9 fear. He's going to bail now. And maybe I'll bail too, but maybe I'll stick with the leader. They're also at 6 or 7. So if they're going to bust, I'm going to bust as well, but family friendly, very cute. Lots of different ways of kind of going through this haunted house, because every time you play, you're kind of building it as you go. You start from a central tile, you put out tiles around it, and then kind of like Betrayal at House on the Hill, you kind of build the haunted house with tiles as you go. You just draw them from the top of the deck. All the face-up tiles are removed from the game, and then you refill as you need to. Yeah, that's my pitch.
All right, sounds great. So what's your favorite thing about the game, Chris?
My favorite thing about the game is the table talk that it encourages. Because only the followers can choose to use a flashlight, they can say anything they want about what they see. They can tell the truth and be like an ally. They can lie and try to dupe the leader into going a specific way. They could also potentially share some information, but maybe not everything. They can say anything they want, and only the followers can use a flashlight. So the leader has to go on kind of incomplete information.
So thematically, is that because the leader is supposed to be brave, so he can't get a flashlight?
Well, on one level, what I'm picturing now is a leader kind of making a choice on where to go without having a complete sense of things. I'm also picturing the followers as being the one that's like, hey guys, check out this other room I found over here. They kind of split off and then they come back. I'm kind of picturing a 1980s sort of Stranger Things sort of vibe. And that kind of leads into the theming of the game. When they're on the table, they're rooms in this haunted house. When you collect them, they're almost framed like a Polaroid. So, you know, at the end of the round, you've all taken Polaroids of these monsters. Now you're kind of divvying them up as proof that you were there.
I cannot wait to see
and you
the
were cool.
art of the Polaroids. That
Oh,
will be
yeah.
amazing.
Exactly.
That's all the time we have for you tonight, Chris. So tell us where to find you and where to find the game.
This is Chris Backe. This is entrogames.com, ENTRO games. And I'm happy to send more information as you need it.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, good, Sean. Glad to have you.
Yes, good to be here. So I suppose I should start with the spiel.
Yes. Whenever you're ready, tell us what the game is.
Yep. So the game has a working title of Wild, Wonderful and Weird. It's about Australian animals and researchers going out into the outback and basically taking account of what animals are in the area. If any feral animals they come across, they take out, and then new animals will move in. And if they don't get all the feral animals out, then at the end of each round, the feral animals will start having an impact on native wildlife like they do in real life. And it's played over 3 rounds, which represents the researchers coming back in to see what new animals are in there. It's a 2-player strategic set collection game. So you're trying to collect sets of marsupials, monotremes, like the echidna and platypus. We've got birds, and then we have the feral animals. And so this represents the research area. And basically the players take turns by placing one of these counters anywhere. And when it forms a junction, they grab the card and just put it in their hand. There's a bit of concealed information, because if you pick up a card that's face down, you actually get to keep it in your hand and hide that information from your opponent. But anything that's face up, you leave face up in front of you. Once you play a set, you can't actually modify it. So, you know, you might play a couple of kangaroos, play 2 kangaroos. If you get a third one, you can't actually add it to the set, and you can't do another set of kangaroos. So you have to work out how long you're going to hold cards for, or you're going to play a set now to get a few points. And it's about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the players. There's some strategy in there. We've got snakes, which you can collect for big points. But if you get trapped with them in your hand, you lose points, because, you know, snakes really don't like being handled. And you can also actually just, if you've got that in your hand, you could actually play it and scare your opponent away from moving that marker on their next turn. So they would just be trapped to moving this one. So you can sort of restrict where they move and set yourself up for what cards you want. And that's really the high level overview of it. It's 45 cards and 2 markers, and I'm expecting players to have pen and paper to keep score.
So they keep score during the game?
Yeah, they score each round. So a round will end when there's 10 cards in total that have been played to sets. So if I've got 6 cards in a set and you play 4, the round will end, and then we tally up the cards in our hand. Any feral animals that we've collected will move up the top and start pining for the fjords. And then we flip over all the cards, and any feral animals in here will start munching away. If we've got an eagle, the eagle will actually eat a rabbit, which is pretty handy. So, you know, another dead animal. But foxes will kill birds. So you take out a bird for each fox in the game. Snakes and cane toads kill each other. Of course, the snake will eat the cane toad, and then the cane toad toxin will kill the snake. So you'll take them out. So you start to see there's a bit of carnage, but then at the end, once you sort of know what cards are there, you flip them all back over, add in some more face down to replace what went, shuffle it up and lay out the area again. Researchers come back in and they start hunting around to see what new animals have moved in and what animals are there. Capture them, get sets. Any native animals that were collected in sets, they get released back into the wild at the end of the round. So if I had these as a set, I'd score up the feral animals will kill everything, and then they just get put back in, shuffled back up, and laid back out because they're going to keep living in the same area. So it's got a bit of a message. It's not beating people over the head with it. You don't have to collect the feral animals if you don't want to and have them sent away to somewhere nice. You can leave them in there. It just means that you're not going to have many native animals out there to start collecting. So yeah, very light environmental theme, but it's tied fairly tightly to what you do.
Anyone who knows me knows that I would buy this just because there's a cat in it. But then again, you're telling me that I have to kill the cat. So
yeah, this art is all free art that I'm allowed to use, but it's hard to find a picture of a cat that looks like a feral cat attacking a bird.
yeah.
So my vision is, and I've got a couple of pieces of sample art in the cell sheet, would be to have something nice and vaguely realistic. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Sean.
Thanks
for your time.
You're
Where
welcome.
can we find you?
It's State of Mind Games on Facebook. I'm not super active, or Ted the Bug 2602 on Twitter and Instagram.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Darren. How are you tonight?
Hi, Jill. Good, thank you. How are you?
Tell us a
You
bit
seem-
about what's on our screen. Very
Yes.
cool looking poker table.
Thank you. Yep, so this is Monte Carlo High Roller. It's an abstract card game for 1 to 4 players. The aim of the game is to be the first player to $12 million. Here we have a setup partway through the game.
Is that the aim of life? Be the first one at $12 million?
Yeah. So in the middle of the table, there's 2 rows of cards, and there'll be 1 row per player. Players compete to turn one of these rows into poker hands, but they can only claim gold cards that are in their hand. So having a closer look at these cards now, they're multi-use cards, and they have 3 key features. They can be used to claim a goal, which in this case is a black flush, and they also have a number and a value. So here is a red 9, and the 3 circles on the right-hand side are used to modify the value of the cards. And I'll go into how that works in a minute. So on a player's turn, they'll have 2 actions. They'll play a card from their hand into one of the open spaces, and then they'll place a chip onto one of these cards. So placing a chip expands the value of a card. So this is now an 8 or a 9. If you place the chip down here, it is now a 7 or an 8. And if you place it here, it is now red or black. And if the rows ever fill up with cards, a player will place 2 chips instead. And the chips actually stack. So, and now this card will be an 8 or a 9 or a 10 and is red or black. At any point on a player's turn, they can claim a gold card from their hand. So this player can now claim this straight flush because we have a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 that are all red. So that's a straight flush. And so then the player will just place that card in front of them. That's worth $4 million. So they're a third of their way to the goal. But that's a very hard card to complete. And then they'll just remove those cards from the table.
And once that's yours, it's yours? Nobody can steal it?
That's right. Nobody can steal it. No, it's a friendly game. So then on this player's turn, they can play a card from their hand. So they're going to play this 8, and then they place this chip on the 3 here, and that turns a 3 into a 4. And then that lets them claim this card from their hand, which is a black pair and a red pair. And so you can see there's a pair of red 4s and a pair of black 8s. So they claim that one. That's an easier one. So that's only worth $2 million. Then at the end of the turn, the players will draw cards into their hands from any of these 3 draw decks. There's also 3 wild cards in the game. So this card lets a player take an extra action. This card lets players swap 2 cards between any 2 rows. And then this card is a wild, so it can be any color and number. So there's also a solo mode in the game. In that case, the game is set up for 2 players. The only difference is that whenever you draw a card into your hand, you'll first check the goal on that card. And if the goal can be completed in any of the five cards in either row, then the bot player scores that card. So you can see there's at least 5 red cards on the table at the moment. So the bot would score this red flush, and then they would score that $1 million, and the player will just draw a different card into their hand. So I think the target market for this game is for as a filler, and especially suited for new players getting into the hobby. The familiar poker theme should help many players readily grasp the game. The interesting parts of the game are in the decision making of whether you go for easier goals with lower prize money or harder ones with higher prize money, knowing that another player might beat you to it. And there's also some strategy in where you place the cards and chips. So that's Monte Carlo High Roller. I'm Darren Broad, and thank you for hearing my pitch.
Thanks for giving us a pitch, Darren. Now, where can we find you?
So DR Broad Games on Twitter and drbroadgames@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you.
Now, coming up next, we've got Matt with us.
Hi, Jill. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today, Matt?
Good. Good to see you again.
Yes.
Got my Cauldron t-shirt on.
Oh, that looks amazing. You're going to send me one.
All right. I'll share my screen. Hopefully that should be coming up now. How's that look?
Cauldron Bubble. Toil and trouble.
Yeah. All right. So I'm Matt Gleason from Gleason Games. My game is Cauldron Bubble. It's a card game where witches are collecting ingredients to make wonderful potions. It's a family-friendly game for 2 to 4 players and plays in under 30 minutes. So we're playing as witches in a coven. Each witch starts with a different cauldron, ranging from the hottest to the coldest. These determine the turn order and different phases of play, and they're also used to cover your potions while they brew. So you'll be foraging for ingredients, then brewing and using potions for their special effects. To win the game, you need to brew all 4 advanced potions. So witches will be foraging for ingredients, starting with the coldest cauldron. The foraging is an open draft where you can take all cards from one location or draw 2 from the deck and try your luck. More ingredients are added to each round. So any ingredients that are left behind previously will make the stack bigger and make it more appealing next time. In the next phase, then the witch who has the hottest cauldron will go first, and you can use any potions that you had previously brewed and brew new potions by discarding the ingredients you've collected, taking the potion and placing it under your cauldron. So it will brew away, ready for the next round. Potions are in limited supply though, so you have to be quick to get what you want, but they're also double-sided, so you can add extra ingredients to make a more powerful version of the potion. So this can lead to strategic choices. Do you take the minor potion now, or do you wait to collect the extra ingredient to make the major version later? The advanced potions are always kept as permanent powers. And these will help you to win the game, of course. So usually when you use a potion, you discard it. The advanced potions are kept and you can be used over and over. The 4 advanced potions of flying, healing, beauty, and strength will make you the best witch and give you victory. So Cauldron Bubble has a large scope for variation in the potion powers. Game could be produced with different sets of potions to give a modular setup. So you can switch potions in and out for different games. to add to replayability over and over. Could also sell different sets as expansions with variations that might appeal, for example, to a more competitive audience, where you could be attacking your fellow witches to, steal some of their ingredients and things like that. Components are currently just cards to give fairly low production costs, but I could imagine little Cauldron minis would give the game a bit of extra wow factor. I think that'll make it look nice. That's it for me. You can contact me at Gleason Games on Twitter. It's where I'm usually most active for this and other games that I'm working on. There's quite a few going on at the moment, but trying to keep on track with all of them if I can.
Thanks so much for that, Matt.
Keeps me busy.
I do love the look of your game. You know I do. I love the little tiny potion bottles everywhere.
Thank you.
And I can already see it on the table and getting played.
Yeah, it does look quite good when it's all set up. It's quite colourful, and most of the components are out in the open, so everyone can see them. It makes for a good setup, I think.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight, Matt. So you've already told us where we can find you. Anything else you wanted to add before we kick you out?
No, I'll see you all at PAX Australia, hopefully.
Well, I bought my tickets, but we'll see whether lockdown ends.
Yes. We're all praying. Hopefully we'll get there.
I mean, hopefully. We already had it cancelled last year. Just please, COVID gods, let us in.
Yes. No, I think we'll be safe this time.
Thanks,
get your vaccines. Bye.
Andrew's back.
Hello again.
Hi, Andrew. So we follow one witch with another witch. I see that we're talking about Slipstream now. Is that right?
Slipstream, that's right. One moment. Here we are. So this is Slipstream. This is a game about junior witches at the Witch Academy learning to fly their brooms and doing so by running courier service. So they're delivering parcels to all of the buildings around town, and it's a race to make 4 deliveries and then get back to the academy and see who gets their flying award. So here we've got a game that's in play already. Some witches have already moved around the board, and these are the pieces that I've got left over after their move. So a move in Slipstream is real straightforward. You simply move your witch out of the way, choose one of the tiles you're going to play, pop it down at the end of your path, and then put your witch back on at the end. So to make a delivery, you have to get your witch onto one of the 2 circles that have to be freely available at the moment. So red has made a delivery now. They can mark off their stonemason card. That one's been done. And then they draw their next delivery. So in this case, the next delivery will be to the tavern. You can choose one of your 2 deliveries. You always have 2 active deliveries at a time. So you can choose which one you want to work towards. So they've completed their delivery. But as a consolation prize to everybody else, everybody gets a magic point, except for the person who made that delivery. So if nobody else has made their first delivery at this point, so that's the first delivery, then everybody else who hasn't gains one of these magic points. And you can use that to spend to give some extra flight ability. So you can use it to pick up a tile, place an extra tile, or if you need to, you can swap out one of your delivery cards as well. So we move down to the next player. So green is going to immediately spend their point to pick up a tile off the end. No, sorry, that's not right. What am I talking about? They're going to play 2 cards. One to here, and then one to here. Just missed their delivery. They have to come back on the next turn. I forgot my own rule. Let me just take that back for a second because I just embarrassed myself. So
you're cheating at your game already.
So at the start of your turn, if you only have 2 tiles, then you pick up a tile off the end of your stream. That's where I got confused there. So now he's got 3 tiles. He has these 3 to choose from. He's going to spend his magic point, place down this tile, and then the other tile he picked up, which again allows him to complete his delivery. Sorry, I got myself mixed up there. And again, so he's now made his second delivery. So I can choose another tile, another card. One's been delivered. And everybody else who hasn't made that delivery gets another magic coin. So now it's yellow's turn. Yellow will also play one to play 2 tiles. I'll move once to here, and another one to here. So the result of that move means that their stream has now aligned with another player's stream, and that lets them do the move that that game is named after, and that's slipstreaming. So they can continue their move along this path and play 1 additional tile at the end of their move, and they can come off anywhere along the stream they want. So yellow is going to come off this way and end their move here. Once you've finished your slipstream, any tile that's not immediately connected to your witch, you get to pick up. So all of yellow's other tiles are now picked up. And that means on the next turns, they will have more choices for what they can do. So they've got a speed boost and they've got extra tiles they can play on the next turn. We move on to white's turn. Now white is moving towards one of these portals at the edge of the board. So on their move, they can make 1 move into the portal. And as soon as your witch lands on portal, you choose one of the other 3 portals around the board, and you can exit from there facing any direction you want. They're working towards either the bakery or the city watch, so they'll pop out over here. And then we continue the round. Everybody's making their deliveries. Your goal is to deliver four parcels to each of your nominated locations, and then work your way back towards the academy. The first witch back to the academy is the winner.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Andrew. You know, I love this game. I have enjoyed playing it before, and I think that you've done an amazing job. So show us some of those witches before I let you go.
Yes, I've made these little witches myself, but these will be made out of acrylic in the next version. So just sort of freestanding. All the pieces are transparent, which lets you see the path that's below any overlapping tiles. Yeah. So you can see how pieces are going to move when things are rearranged.
Thanks, Andrew. Now we already know how to find you, so I'm just going to kick you out now.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks. Calan, how are
you?
Hello.
Good, thank you. I'll just start sharing my screen. Very nice. So I'm here to talk to you about Conspired, which is a board game that I've made. So in this game, you play as the leader of a conspiracy theory. And so it's a semi-abstract strategy game for 2 to 7 players. And your aim is to gather enough followers under your conspiracy theory in order to get enough influence to break into the mainstream media. So the game is quite quick to learn. There's only a few rules with just 4 different actions to choose between, which means that if everyone is on board with what their plan is, you can have for quite a fast-paced game as you go through the turns. But even though it can be quick, you can have a lot of different strategies, and the strategies can change and become more complex depending on the numbers of players. So when you play the game with a 2-player versus a 4-player versus a 5-player, it's all going to be different, and different strategies will prevail. So I'll show you some quick examples here of what the rules are and how the gameplay kind of works out. So this here is a setup for a 4-player game, and you can see that there are 6 different conspiracy theories involved here. So in every game, there'll be 2 non-player conspiracy theories in there, and that is to increase the number of tiles on the board for more room for you to expand your influence out into. So on the right, you have the turn order, which is randomized each time. And at the bottom, we've got the 4 options you have for your turn. So the first option that you can do on your turn is to spread distrust in the mainstream narrative. So for that, you flip over the sheeple tiles, which are these ones here, people who don't believe in conspiracy theories, to then believe in a conspiracy theory. But you won't know which one it is because the board will be randomized every time. So once you flip it over, you'll find out what they are. And it's red's turn. So all of the tiles adjacent to red's area of influence, which is all the tiles that are connected to their leader tile, will get flipped over. To show what conspiracy theory they are hiding underneath. The second option you can take on your turn is to convert a susceptible tile to believe in your conspiracy theory. So only leaders can convert tiles. And so it's green's turn. So green can convert this tile just by replacing it with one of their spare follower tiles on the side to convert a believer in conspiracy theories to believe in your conspiracy theory. The third option on your turn is to infiltrate a neighboring community. So it is blue's turn here. So you can use any of your tiles to infiltrate a tile that is adjacent to your area of influence. So in order to connect your influence together, you can expand across the board. So blue can infiltrate using this tile to swap with this tile here. And that allows them to connect their area of influence to other tiles of their column to expand. And so as you can see, the larger your area of influence becomes, the more options you have with your infiltrating choice, and allows for a little bit more complexity. As your area of influence grows, you get more choices to make. And the final thing you can choose on your turn, option number 4, is to jump ship if you want to abandon your conspiracy theory and jump ship to one of the non-player conspiracy theories because you dislike your position. So purple here doesn't look very happy, and pink just got a whole bunch of things when red flipped over the sheeple tiles. So purple's going to jump ship to pink. And then because of the way that the turn order works here, they immediately take over pink's turn, and then they can have a turn. And just by converting this tile here, they can connect to a total of 8 tiles in their area of influence, which is exactly the right amount you need to win the game. So in this instance, pink will have won and broken into the mainstream narrative. So I guess in summary, Conspired is a compact game. So it's just this small little game. You can just put it in your pocket if you have large enough pockets, I guess, but you can take it with you wherever you go. It's a great travel game, and you can play it on a very small play space as well. It doesn't require you to have a large table. And it's very fast to pick up with only just those 4 different rules, and has, I think, quite a good potential for scalability because it only has one physical object, which are these tiles. There's a box, there's rules, and then there's just a bunch of tiles. So it's very easy to expand out and potentially to have expansions as well with more conspiracy theories involved or different tile types that do different things within the game. So an example that someone has suggested to me is that you have a person of influence, so you can bring them into the fold and they can act like your leader and also convert other tiles too. So very few options as well.
All right, so when are you adding COVID-19?
That has been told me many times as well. There might have to be a 2020 special with all of the COVID-19 and different conspiracy theories that came out with Bill Gates involved as well. 5G towers. There's a lot of things that there's the potential for many more conspiracy theories to be brought in.
Yeah, there definitely are. So where can we find you, Calan, before we let you go?
So you can find Conspired on Facebook. You can find it on Board Game Geek, and you can also find it on my website as well, which is.
Right. Thanks very much for your time, Calan. Joel, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
So tonight I have for you Boom Snap Clap, a body percussion party game for 2 to 6 players with a solo variant. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. The backstory for this kind of comes around Gen Con 2019. One of the big hits was a game called Medium. And I noticed that Medium had a lot of similarities to stuff like The Mind or Insider, not in the sense that they similar games, but they take something that is familiar, something that we remember from high school, and they've gamified it. Insider is 20 questions. The Mind is kind of like a game where you sit around and you shout out numbers trying to get through the sequence. So I adapted my 22 years of percussion experience into my game design and came up with Boom Snap Clap. So Boom Snap Clap, there is a bunch of different tokens, and basically you're playing through a beat. So there are 5 different difficulties, and there's a little algorithm that tells us how to set up the game depending on what difficulty you choose. So there's 5 difficulty levels from novice working up to rock god. And as players get better, the game increases difficulty, or you can increase the difficulty, making it more and more complicated. So the game evolves with people. So you lay out an initial beat sequence according to the difficulty you've set it at, and then players must perform that beat sequence in 30 seconds. So I've set out an example here, and going at the start in 30 seconds, we have to go boom, snap, clap, boom, snap, clap, clap, snap, boom, clap, clap, snap, clap, clap, clap. But that keeps going up until we've got about 55 different chips along the board. So kind of, I guess, like The Mind, it evolves throughout the game and becomes more difficult. If you miss beats, if you make mistakes, you lose tokens. So technically it makes the round a bit easier, but the more you lose, the more likely you are to be booed off stage. So it is quite a unique game. Players will have to go around the circle playing one beat each at a time until they get all the way through the sequence. They get through the sequence, you roll a dice, and there's again a little table that tells you either add tokens or perform different actions, reverse the beat, change the order a little bit. So yeah, so as you're watching, you're kind of hoping to anticipate what you're going to play next. Players will change the starting player, so they work around. So you become familiar with the beat, but you never fully become comfortable in your position in the queue, so you're not playing the same beat for 20 minutes. So it slowly evolves with the players. So it does have fairly little requirements. So the upfront is quite small in terms, and there's quite a few components. So the initial outlay for the game or initial upfront for the game is quite small. But again, like stuff like The Mind Medium, simple concept, very replayable. They've had a huge success in the party game market.
Right, thanks for that. Do you want to show us what actions correspond to some of those tiles?
Absolutely. So there's the main ones are boom, snap, clap, tap, and then we have a rest. And depending on the difficulty, you might have multiple ones on a token. For instance, there's 4 on there. There's 2 different beats. So if you have 2 different beats on a token, you have to play those 2 beats. So boom, boom on your chest, snap, clap, tap the table. So you may, in one instance, have to clap, snap, or other way around. But anyway, I would have just lost the point for that.
So boom, snap.
That's it.
Yep. So I win.
Well, if we had worked our way through 55 tokens, I think we would have done all right. So we have to go between us. So if you actually want to go around, let's start here. If you want to go the first one.
Which one's the first one?
So we're starting here next to the start token.
Okay.
And if you want to chuck in a boom, and then clap to you.
Oh, that's a clap. Okay.
And then boom, boom for me.
Boom,
So
boom.
boom, boom.
Oh, that was you. And then I go snap,
Tap, tap.
snap,
Boom.
and clap.
Clap.
And snap, snap.
And tap, 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 tap. And we've made it through a round.
Okay.
And we roll the dice, which my toddler has run off with. And we go to our little table and we determine what beats we're going to add, well, random beats we're going to add next from a stack of face down beats, and if we're going to change the action. So if we can, sometimes we chuck it the other way around. We might have to shuffle. We may even have to go, okay, all of us this round have to play the difficult one. So when it comes to here, instead of one person playing, all 4 of us have to jump, or all players have to jump in.
All right. Thanks so much for showing us that, Joel. Where can we find you and where can we find the game?
So this one, so I'm on Nurse Shark Games on Facebook, Instagram. This one's kind of in development, but I've got print and plays. If anyone's interested, please send me a line. I can send it out.
All right. Thanks so much, Joel.
Thank you.
Welcome. What are you showing us
Hello.
tonight?
Hello, my name is Mathijs, and I'm showing Cops and Rubbers today. Cops and Rubbers is a social deduction / bluffing game for 3 to 7 players. In this game, you'll be taking on the role of either a cop or a rubber. But unlike most games where you get developed your role at the start of the game, you're stuck with it, you can develop your identity as the game goes on. So I'm going to give a really short overview of everything you do in turn. Turns are very simple. You simply play a card from your hand, do what it says. You can either play it face up, in which case you do its effect, or you play it face down, in which case you don't do its effect, you simply take 2 coins from the supply. Or you can, if you played your card, you pass the card to the next player, and lastly you draw a card from the supply if any remain. So let's go over what kind of cards we have in the game. There's 2 types of cards, blue cards, red cards, and each card, as you'll see the top left of the card, will have a loyalty symbol with some number of loyalty symbols. For example, this patrol has 3 loyalty symbols, and this steel identity on the top bottom right has 1 loyalty symbol. At the end of the game, whichever symbol you have the most of will determine what team you're in. And this way you can develop your team as you continue. As the game goes by. So each team basically has a type of action. For example, the cops, that's the blue cards, they have different ways to give away money and to help others whilst getting information. So you can maybe look at other face down cards, see what people are doing, see what people are planning. And the robbers, they're a bit more mean. They're all about stealing stuff, stealing cards, stealing coins, messing with other people. And as you play the game, you'll be playing these cards, and you can play them face up. In which case, you can look, maybe this comp card, for example, allows you to look at face down cards of other players, and maybe you get a bit of information. Oh, look, this person played some red cards, but he has some face down cards. There's some blue face down cards, so he's actually in the blue team. Scoring at the end of the game is also very simple. At the end of the game, all players in the same team, each player will flip over their cards, and all players in the same team will add up their money, and they will divide it by the number of players in that team. So let's say these two players are in the same team, and these two players are in the same team. These two players in the same team. These players would add up their money and divide it by 2, because there are 2 players in the team, and these 2 players would also add their money and divide by 2 to form their score. So we would have a score of 2. And we would have a score, they would have a score of 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So all the players in this team will win. That means that it's possible for a team to have just one table lead, or it can be a team of like 6 against 1. I've seen both those things happen. That's always very exciting. Yeah, what makes this game really unique is that you develop your strategy or you develop your role during the game. So rather than being stuck with it and being forced to play one side or the other, maybe you don't like it, you're able to switch things a little bit up and be able to adjust on the fly and see what goes where. So once you're in it, once you have decided, once you know a bit more about the team, there's different ways you can interact with them. For example, you see that this player has a lot of money, and you think they're in the robber team. So there's a bunch of ways you can assist them. You can give them money via playing some cop cards and helping them, giving them money directly from the supply. Or you can try to be sneaky and try to steal away money from other players. So you help this player a bit more. And lastly, another way to do it is maybe to mess with their cards or play, or for example, this identity thief allows you to steal one of their cards in front of them, put it into your hand, and then replace it with a different card. So you can you have a chance to turn someone into your team and hiding what other people are doing. So these are all the cards in the game. There's only 8. So it's nice and simple. People can learn it on the fly. I've seen these people pick this up who never played games before, pick this up on their first go. And the game ends after 6 rounds. And the game takes about, depending on number of players, somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes. I've seen it go as fast as 10 with experienced players. And that's all really, it all flows really smoothly. And I think that there's I've heard a lot of good things about replayability. People trying out different play styles. You can be very secret, playing a lot of cards face down, be a bit more hiding about what you want to do. I've seen some people be very aggressive and open. People will go hard in as a thief and go like, yeah, I want to be a criminal today.
Thank you so much for that, Mathijs. The game looks great. Where can we find you?
The contact informations are in the description or in my Excel sheet. You can remember it's Mathijs 2_Jansen@hotmail.com.
Thanks, Mathijs. David, lucky last.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. What are you showing us tonight?
I'm showing you this game here, which is Moonstead, which is a 2 to 4 player game, plays in about an hour. It's a sort of a family weight gateway level game, basically about building a base on the moon in this lovely crater that we have here. It's a very simple game. It's basically just driven by an action wheel. Players over here just move their tokens around the action wheel as far as they feel they need to, do the various actions, picking up tiles, building cubes into the various sections of the board on the monorail, and building tiles onto the game. So you basically just take tiles from the game and then eventually end up building them in here, claiming them with your cubes. And doing that, Game takes place over a very simple number of rounds. Game takes place over 6 turns in 5 rounds. Basically have the option to build 30 tiles, but there's also lots of other things to build, and you have to sort of make very interesting decisions between whether or not you're going to go for the sort of area control points that are scored at the end of each round, or whether you're going to go for sort of more kind of point salad points that sort of come up during the game. Each of the tiles have these little tips built onto them. So the little tips here that actually sort of dictate certain powers and things and certain bonuses that the tiles will get. So once you've got an interesting collection of tips, you can then start scoring large point bonuses off those. Also towards the end of the game, you'll end up building these little satellite tiles in between each of the domes on the moon, and they'll score points for the things that have been built in each of the domes. So everyone's building onto a nice communal tableau. Lots of really good player interaction, lots of good tension, lots of nice sort of things when you fight for the area control. But you can also kind of ignore that to a certain extent and just concentrate on building on the monorail, building other action tiles, and going for those sort of nice big point chunks when they come out, and trying to sort of gazump everyone for those, and grabbing what you can. So yeah, and players just score around the edge of the board as normal, and yeah, over the course of 6 rounds, and try and win is basically it. So yeah.
Now, when somebody says monorails, action wheels, building, I imagine the game would take a little while. How long does this usually take?
Game takes about an hour. It's usually less than that. Even with 4 players, if they're relatively experienced, you'll knock out a game in about an hour, because the game takes place fairly quickly over a relatively short number of rounds. You've got only a certain number of builds allowed each round, so you have to kind of agonize quite strongly over what you're going to build, what type of thing you're going to build. Are you going to build more points for the area control element? Are you going to try and take over somebody else's area? Are you going to try and take over the monorail, score their area control points at the end of the game? So do you start building up on the monorail? So you've just got to keep making sure that those short number of builds that are available in any round, you jump on as many of those as possible and grab what you can. You can also buy the architects up at the top of the board here. They'll help you actually just build your game engine down here, which gives you special powers and so forth over the course of the game. So a little bit of engine building that way, but mostly it's just sort of trying to work out what you're going to do, what sort of tiles you're going to grab, what you're going to build where, and doing that. So yeah, it's good.
And don't get me wrong, I love my 3-4 hour long games. Also love my 1 hour long games. This one is looking pretty good. It's got lots of the things I like: engine building, action wheels. What's your favorite thing about it?
My favorite thing is the pacing on the action wheel. You're allowed to come round as far as you like, and you're allowed to draw tiles and draw tiles, but everything else that you do means you have to spend tiles to do the monorail action, which means you've got less tiles to build. You have to spend tiles to buy the architects. So the architects are purchased using these powers on the backs of the tiles, and then the front of the tiles is the thing that allows you to score the points around the board. So you've really got to try and balance between grabbing tiles, what you want to spend the tiles on, and then every time you come around to that building action, it's how many spots did I stop on the way to get there, or do I just grab a tile and zip around and build? So it's that real kind of tension of pacing between somebody who's just trying to grab as many tiles as they can and build them, and other people are trying to build engines and build the monorail and things like that. So it creates this really nice kind of ongoing tension. And then the round just ends, and suddenly there's end of round scoring for all of the different domes and things. And
love it.
You're just
it's just
trying
that
to keep
classic.
up with it all.
You have to do this in order to do this in order to do this. So David, where can we find you?
Yeah, sure. I'm available on YouTube and available through this, and the information is also available through the Tabletop Game Designers of Australia. So yeah.
Thanks so much, David, and thank you for your time and showing us Moonstead.
Thanks very much. Okay, cheers.
And that was our last game. That's a wrap. We had a bunch of talented folks here tonight to share their amazing designs with us. Please check them out, maybe even give the games a test. You can see their sell sheets, their descriptions in the YouTube link. The recording of Digital DevCon will be up on YouTube soon. Just search TGDA on YouTube or follow any one of the people that you've seen here today, and I'm sure they will share it, and then you can see it. Before I go, I also just want to thank everyone who was behind the scenes. We had Alex, Trent, Pauline, Kai, Sean, Des. Everyone has done such amazing work to get this Digital DevCon to you tonight. And that's a wrap. Remember to like and subscribe.